Jeremiah part 4, and we're going to continue here and see what's going on. I couldn't figure out what these marks were left, but I guess they're a format, and then I took them out, or I didn't get to use them. So other than that, I did look, couldn't figure it out. So note to myself, put down more info. Again, they're not supposed to shave shave your head. Fasting was usually just for like in a morning situation. I could divide it and it could have made something out of it, but it wasn't making any sense. It's already been said. No, because a lot of these things that you're seeing here are already going to be said. We're pretty far into the text now. Not his own, your own. I'm just reading, and I'm hurl. He was going to be sending, not hurl you out of the land. Yeah, it was going to send you out of the land. Countries, kingdoms. They usually didn't use the word countries. Eyes watch, ways. That's the intent of the word, what the word ways are. So I just put it in as evilness. Concealed, hidden, sight from eyes. These seem to be pretty easy to understand. Detestable to false, that's close, but it's what's needed. Again, it didn't make it. Maybe that's what I did was maybe that's why these are colored darker. I used them and then they weren't needed later when I was combining them together. Yeah, that might have been why I'm doing that color. So, yeah, it's gone on too many times here. So, if Greater wanted to make himself known, he would make himself known more than just like that. Mountain of mine in the countryside. It's the hill country. If any time you're going to use or hilly country or hilly land, trying to think of the proper way to use. And all your treasure is for booty. I don't think so. Don't need. They're going to serve whoever they're sent to anyway, so. And like I said, back then, you got to understand, they were just taken, stripped of their money so they couldn't travel home. But they were kind of free to roam around in that new area. They weren't allowed to return. I had to add this because later when I looked at the verses, I had left it alone, and then I turned around and I added this later because it was needed, because this goes on a little bit. Just removing. Don't need all this here. Although the verbiage at that time and the way they talked, this does make sense that they would write kind of in like this type of writing. So, and then this is just stuck in. Not the hope of Israel, salvation of Israel through Jesus is what the Israelis know, not these writers that are writing. And just from reading that, it's going to be part of him just talking. Jeremiah, that is. Hurried, ran yourself to himself. Utterances, words. Disaster again changed to war. And this, when you're trying to make a paragraph, you'll see that that's how our 3 verses. Wasn't much to take from those others. Okay. All right. All to mankind, all to everyone. I didn't do it the same because first of it's everyone in Judah, and then it's mankind. Our Creator is sending him all the time to. He blatantly knows who they are, like I do, not like you know, but like I know. This text, I've got read verse 24 and 25. Read verse 24 and 25. Oh, this is talking about the holy days. This is a commandment. So he's not going to be talking about commandments. He's if you're not obeying his commandments, he's just not going to come punish you for that. You're supposed to atone for your sin or talk to him about it, but he's not coming after you for all this stuff just for that a commandment. I hope you've studied the prophecies by now and just learned how they're the intent of words and how they're pointed, and you'd find that would be just one of a kind. So it's not being used. Okay, and here we're having a decent story put in here again. House to descendants, pulled down, removed. Needed to add, let them live here. It makes more sense when you see it all put together, why that's here. Nation, Judah, so turn from their evil. This is Jeremiah telling them that they're supposed to. I think he's talking to judges. I think at this time he's being brought in front of the judges for him prophesying in front of the house for our Creator, and the priests are really upset about him, so they take him to the judges. So at this time, because in the Gospels, the priests have their own officers that could arrest him. At this time, it seems they still needed to have the judges were in power more. about ruling whether to kill somebody. So pretty sure that's what this conversation is about. Here again, I'm using the word races. Boy, I haven't took a nap before I started this one, and I'm still yawning. Like I said, it's a destroyer. If it's war going to happen, their destroyers coming down, devising a plan. Because the text, at this time, you're going to see a progression here of the buildup that they're coming from the north, which means they're going to know it's one of those two that are fighting it out there between Babylon and Assyria to figure out who's going to be the power. So it's just right now the destroyer is against you. Oh, I forgot them. So I was wondering why it was a little dark. Kind of cloudy and raining here today. Reform, repent. This is kind of how I was, when I was seeing this, I realized how odd it was that our Creator would be then telling them to prophesy and then ask them a question. Now YV, now ask YV, ask now whoever has heard. Not and like this, the virgin, he's brought prophets turning away from him, and you don't hear prophets turning away from the Creator, no matter all their promises and everything. We just don't do that. We know what's going on. We know our Creator is our Creator, and he's made everything, even those weird ones. So stumbled and lost. I think you can understand that when it's not stumbled from their way, but lost their way. They aren't returning to our Creator. They just don't want to. So here's that strong wind, but this time it's just scattered you about. Lands against Jeremy. Okay. This is, like I said, the pieces aren't in order yet, but they'll go together, that they're devising a plan against Jeremiah here. A lot of prophesying. I changed it from priests to scribes because surely his prophesying is not going to happen. They're talking about Jeremiah's words, and be lost by our scribes. The scribes are going to be the ones writing. Like I was saying, at this time we have two groups of scribes, blatantly those scribes that are rewriting and doing what they're doing to the text here, and then there's the scribes that are the good guys still, that are still writing what's happening. And but you can see over time they've took over this text as well, took over everything. I changed to please, because the plea, when you're reading it, when you're editing this or any of it, I get a sense of what's going on. So when it says "do hear me," please hear me. He's asking the question when he's talking, not "do hear me" when I'm talking to you. Please hear me. And this is going to be his prayer to our Creator. Smitten, struck, same thing. Yes, it fits the format. Didn't use it. I didn't know about this text. It looks like it wants to, but it didn't make it. didn't need this. That's just stuck in the middle of the story that it just doesn't make any sense when you slow it down and read it. Here he's going to go buy potter's jar. They had to make an earthenware jar. Well, it's a pot, so everybody knows what a clay pot is today. From people to judges and priests, because he's going to be taking this is like I said, this is like our Creator's talking to him, tells him what he wants to do, and then who's going to do this, and then he's going to get into the prophecy. A lot of times, this is what people are missing. It's just not our Creator saying, "Go say this." He's talking to them in many ways of how he wants the prophecy to be given into who and where. And it's quite something, because some places where, like where this pot is being thrown outside the gates of Jerusalem, that's the potter field where they were throwing things out. Later, they changed that into a graveyard, and then Jesus was crucified on that road into the graveyard. So the stories to me make sense, but when I'm seeing these and I'm writing these or editing them, there's a lot of knowledge to kind of take a look at as the words go through, and realizing how they changed over time. At what time this happened, what time that happened. Places, hills, Bala, like I said, is Ra, the sun god. Here I'm putting the sun god in, and that way the text is always going to know who I'm talking about and who you should know that they were talking about at that time. Egypt was powerful. You can go take a look at all the symbology and there's things there, and when people become truthful, they'll tell you the answers. And here they're offerings to Asherim, and this is the female goddess's name that there's, like I said, 3 times in all the Hebrew text. There's different, I think there's 3 names that they've given her. I'm going to use one so it's not confusing. I think they used it as before you know her and then you know her type of thing. So, and this guy's name just doesn't make sense. The valley for whoever. This is that graves that I was saying later in the story when you really know what's going on. That's where this potter's going to be. And then this is also going to be the valley of slaughtered, and many will die. This I think I added later after I reviewed the text and needed this because it is part of the prophecy. And here, this valley, like I said, that's come down. It's out the east gate. This is the entrance where Jesus comes in, and the hills you got to go up and down. So as he was descending from, I can't remember, Bethel, one of the 2 cities is at, and then he ascends. This is the valley that they're talking about. So once you start understanding why I'm using Pacific words, and as you grow to know the text and start searching out the history of how our Creator goes through and tells his prophecies, and then over time seeing what he said here happens later and has changed a little bit. Like I said, I know there's the story, I'm pretty sure it's in Isaiah just before him. He's going to do the same thing. So the thing here is then he's going to tell them they're all going to die here. And then you're going to see this happen again in another prophecy being told again. And kind of like reminding them that, hey, I said this before, I'm saying it again. Because, see, their scribes are taking the text and changing it. So he's directly speaking to them that when they see the text and one of them are going to say, hey, I remember that. Here he goes again, type of thing. But I don't know. I guess I just enjoy the part of the in behind the scenes of what's going on. I hope people really get to understand, because to live that type of life and understand all the surrounding and the verbiage, how it's used, and you get a feeling of being there a lot of times when you're reading some of this. Becomes more vivid in your mind. City of desolation, and I had to leave the word desolation because there's many times he's saying that the city is going to be left for animals. Now, should I change the word city here to Jerusalem? I think I would probably be doing that somewhere in the future. When I know what the city is, I try to make sure that the name is there and just not the word city. Yeah, this is well, I guess okay, and here you're supposed to throw the jar down and break it, and then, yeah, so this is Jeremiah doing this. And you notice that our creators wanted to make sure it's a visual that this is what's going to happen. It's going to bust up. In other words, they're going to arrive from the north, and this is going to happen, and it's going to look like this because it's over. It's done with. They got to understand what some of the meaning is behind it. The potter's vessel. I know I changed that word later to pot. So, this guy's here, this priest here, it said the priest, but he has to be one of the 12. And like I was just saying, this was the guy that's going to now take him in, when he heard him prophesying this, he had him beat and put into stocks. Now, this is those stocks are those things that you see people put their hands and head through, and they're locked down and they're left like that as a punishment or an embarrassment for them for a while. And then the next day he come in and release them. Now, is the stocks like it is, like what I just said, or are they seated and they're like this? Okay. Standing or seated. I would believe that this is all night. I would believe this stock is one that they're sitting. It's still uncomfortable. It's still trying to punish him. And then when he releases him, Jeremiah says these things to him. So you can see it's a conversation between the two. And again, they had these words out of order, so I'm taking this text here and I'm putting it here. See this here, Jeremiah is telling him. See, he's knows what our Creator has said to him. So this is kind of unique. When I was reading this, that here he's going to be telling them that you guys are going to go into captivity, and you will enter into Babylon, and there you will die. Believe it or not, the story actually is that's what it says. So it's unique how digging this stuff out and then finding different pieces later. When I'm putting it together, it's like, okay, that's the guy he was talking to, and this has to be where in the text? Very close to the end. So this is how I can actually combine verses together, these stories, where they go in place. That's just to let you know, I might not say that when I put them together, but when you read it, you'll see that, okay, that's why it's in that order, because they're going to be the ones that are died, because the text is going to have them down at not quite as you enter Babylon. Um, I'm not sure if this is exactly where they were killed. I know that I'm thinking the text has got Nebuchadnezzar more up towards Damascus, um, in that area by the river of Damascus. You got to understand the land structure, and where he's sending his army, and he's staying behind. You got to remember this King Nebuchadnezzar is only about, I think, 16 or 17 at this time. I'd be pushing it if I said he was 20 at this time. Um, so um, I was deceived, and you have overcome me and prevailed. He wouldn't be saying these type of things, especially you'll become a laughing stock all day long, and everyone will mock you. This is them being taken away. He's telling them that's what's going to happen to them. Although they're not believing it, but that's what's being told to them. Um, endure the fear. I have terror here. So I think I put the word fear in, and then I'm using the word fear down here. I'm trying to connect all these together here, by using these words and understanding. Uh, it's Jeremiah is talking about within its heart, but I will not fear them, not endure them. They're going to fear them. Many are in fear because when it starts happening, everyone will be blaming him. So you can see that maybe they're starting to hear that they're coming. Um, and so they're getting ready. You got to remember, it doesn't happen as fast as it does today. This is the land structure, coming down from Turkey through to get to Israel, or Babylon, because you have to, like, the Euphrates Rivers is out. I'm probably drawing it wrong for you, so reverse it. I'm looking at the map in my head. So, but the Euphrates River comes from the mountains here of Turkey, and then it comes like this, and it goes out to the sea. Well, they have to come around these to come down this way, and then there's to travel. In fact, there's one spot, there's only like about maybe a total of 5 miles that that they had to travel, because it would have been easiest to transport everything that they were carrying, and the easiest to keep coming down. And it gets narrower, and then it starts uh, getting too mountainous to where you have to go over to one side towards Damascus. So, because once you start understanding the land structure of the stories, you'll see why these cities were there, why they had been established for that length of time. Um, it was the easiest way to travel, and it had either a great food source or a great water source to um, start being established for something like in Damascus, and then other large cities that are known in the text. Um, so, yeah. And here he's just talking away. So some of this he wasn't saying to him at that time. He was like talking afterwards, after he's telling you their discussion of what they were thinking about him. Do test, will test, seek to know, see to know. I think that's the correct intent, not that you can see, but the knowing of what you're seeing. Delivered as redeemed, and I'm changing our Creator's name to Yah because he's talking about delivering our soul. Um, they all know that it's Yah's kingdom, and Yah is the one who will allow them into the kingdom. So this is where I'm putting in redeemed our soul. This is where you get the word a savior from. So, or the title savior. And words like that, many places, not just that spot alone. Yeah, this you'll see that. Yeah, now I'm pretty sure I put these words in, and then all of a sudden, when I'm looking at grouping them, it was just going to be in a sore thumb. So, when I thought saying a baby male was born, this was They cursed the one who brought the news to my father. So they were really mad at Jeremiah. So, this has all been said. We're going to be said better. Okay, now this is the last king because Jeremiah, has different kings he's going through. This is the last king, so this is going to be the end king. So some of this text, even though it's chapter 21, I think there's like 47. This you can tell this is way out of order. This is not true. I've got to check that. Maybe I've changed the name later when I realize that. Because let me show you the structure I've got. And it's here that I keep referring to when I'm looking over sometimes. This is this king that I'm saying that a son from this is they got it spelled different, but the object is I believe this time. Yeah, this is the king here. They've got it spelled different, but the object is the blue line shows the lineage of the king's sons. So here he is down here. So he's coming from the last king there. I just thought I'd show you that just to show you that how they misspell words, and then you have to know what they're talking about. Anyone who has done any major research on one character will find names will be changed a lot. It's really hard to follow that story through the text because they do change the name. This should have been green. Oops, green. Now here, like I said, now we can introduce his name because he's not that old and he's finally king. Because if I had the word Nebuchadnezzar being said earlier, I think I mentioned before, do a time study, a lifetime of figuring out his age, and it doesn't make sense that he is as old as they think he is when you look at just the way the text is. Acts to wonders. Warring is a battle against each other because they are going to, because as they're coming down, the text doesn't say this, but they're going to be sending them out to battle them before a long time before they get to Jerusalem. So don't think the battle um, um, it took place right out the front door here. You're going to see that um, when they start talking about the fear and they're starting to get demoralized and that they're going to run and they're going to do these type of things, it's because of the fact that um, they're going to send them out, and then when they see how many of them there are and they start losing, how they back up and they try to refortify the cities and block themselves in, knowing that they don't have any escape really from what's going to happen to them. I must have made an error when I was doing shortcuts, and I try to um, use that search and replace in the text, that you can do that, find these words and change them to this, because it's a long time to change all these things. So it's quickly to what I'm changing. So I must have made an error there. Um, Strike down to kill inhabitants. Here I'm using it as mankind, meaning all the different races from mankind. A great slaughter, not a pestilence. It's going to be a slaughter. Remember the valley of slaughter. Um, so gave Zedek, this would have been a king, but the object is it has to be his commander, not the king. And this was probably an edit after I went through this to do this, because because the prophecy was telling, this is fulfilling a prophecy. He's talking to this king right now, and he's telling him what's going to happen to him. He's because he was brought in and questioned. Pestilence, it's not pestilence, it's swords and famine. Like right now, this is the correct order, because now it's the swords, and they're going to be in the fortified city, and they're going to die from lack of food. This didn't make it. Is it? Am I moving these? I don't think I'm moving. I'm trying to figure still what did that was bugging me. Like move this and it didn't work. Hmm. Oh, I try to leave myself notes and I can't do it right. I know what I did at that time, but about a month later I forgot. I thought I was going to get to these quicker. Die by famine and then by sword. This is who dwells in the city, so it's going to be this famine, and then by the sword. And then they'll live by captives, as captives when they're sent out. And this bringing up David all the time, they done it, this is by the tribe's name. David belongs to Benjamin, so. According to you, well, this is not what's going on. This is because he's hated what they've done down there over a long period of time. Boy, there it is again. And I'm going to say these are who he's talking to, or the priests at this time. Okay, this text I've got does not read taste right. When you're reading things over a lot over time, kings will enter the gates of his house. This is not true. our Creator does not allow anybody into his house. So this is kind of, should, when you're reading it, once you understand looking for false text, this will stick out. And sitting in David's place on his throne, riding on a chariot on horse, even as the king himself. No, these, I just wanted to point out there's these verses here that, here they're talking, it's like a prophecy talking about outside Jerusalem or outside the land of Israel. It was keyed in on his nation. It wasn't about adding pagan land into the situation. He doesn't even like those people. Or he does. I can't say our Creator hates people. He created everybody. It's us choosing right. I know I've said this before, but I guess I'll say this again. Oops, nope, I'm not going to. Good. What I was going to say is going to take 5 minutes. It's 41 minutes, and I got to cut it short, and I will. I'll just keep it here because of retaste. Anyways, on to the next one.